It began, as it so often did, with Clara storming toward me right after the morning break. Her face was a mask of indignation, her eyes burning with a familiar disdain. She marched right up to me at the bottom of the main staircase and threw a set of car keys and a bank card at my chest. They clattered against my uniform before falling to the tiled floor. "I told you!" she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I don't want your charity." She paused, her glare intensifying. "And stop wasting your time on me. I will never like you." Standing there, looking up at her on the steps, a profound sense of confusion washed over me. It was a feeling I had grown used to, a constant, nagging question at the back of my mind. I couldn't understand her. Clara was struggling, so much so that she often couldn't afford a proper meal at lunch. She traveled over 20 kilometers every single day after school to a hospital on the other side of the city to care for her sick mother. So why, I wondered, would she refuse the car and the card I had given her? It was a practical solution to an overwhelming problem. This confusion was tangled up with another, even deeper one. Why, out of all the girls in our school, many of whom were more conventionally beautiful or academically gifted, was I so completely fixated on her? My devotion was so intense that it had become a running joke, a source of endless mockery from my peers. I was Leo, the guy who pathetically trailed after Clara. As these thoughts began to bubble up, a strange, invisible pressure seemed to crush them, pushing them back down into the recesses of my consciousness. It felt like an automated response, a program running in the background of my mind. Almost mechanically, as if my body were not my own, I bent down, my head bowed in submission. I picked up the keys and the bank card from the floor and held them out to her, my hands trembling slightly with a devotion that felt both deeply ingrained and utterly alien. "Clara, it's not charity," I heard myself say, my voice gentle and pleading. "I just feel bad for you." The look in her eyes shifted from disdain to pure, unadulterated disgust. "Your pity makes me sick," she spat. Then, without any warning, she shoved me, hard. My feet tangled beneath me, and I lost my balance, tumbling backward down the short flight of stairs. My head struck the hard floor at the bottom with a sickening thud. A wave of dizziness rolled over me, my vision swimming in and out of focus. And in that disorienting moment, something fractured in my mind. A torrent of new information, not memories, but something else entirely, flooded my consciousness. It was a story, a complete and detailed plot, and I was just a character within it. I saw it all. I was merely a side character, the wealthy but tragic supporting male lead in a story about Clara's eventual triumph. Her true love was her childhood friend, Mark, the supposed golden boy. The timeline stretched out before me with terrifying clarity. In half a year, her mother would pass away. Devastated, she would fail her college entrance exams. Under the immense weight of her circumstances, she would finally relent and agree to be with me. She would accept my family's financial support to study abroad, a move I would see as the beginning of our life together. For her, it would be a humiliating transaction. For 5 years, she would barely look me in the eye, her resentment simmering beneath a placid surface. Upon our return, she would conspire with one of my own company's executives to systematically dismantle my family's fortune, leaving us bankrupt. When my business rivals came to settle their scores, she would leave with Mark without a moment's hesitation, watching coldly from a distance as I was stabbed, bleeding out on the pavement. The final image burned into my new memory was my own body collapsing, the life draining from me, while Mark wrapped a protective arm around her shoulders as she walked away, never once glancing back. Her cold, indifferent expression at 25 was a perfect mirror of the scornful glare she was giving me right now, at 18. I stared up at her from the floor, dazed, for what felt like an eternity. For a split second, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. The bell for the next class rang, shrill and demanding. She had started to walk away, but paused mid-step. Without turning around, she sneered, "If you want to be late, go ahead and play dead on the floor. But don't think you can guilt-trip me with this pathetic act. It just makes me look down on you even more." That single, callous remark was what finally broke the spell. It snapped me back to the present, the phantom pain of a future wound mixing with the dull ache in my head. "Wait," I called out, my voice raspy and unfamiliar to my own ears. Clara stopped, but didn't bother to turn. "What?" she said, her tone laced with impatience. "I only pushed you. You're not dead. Are you planning to sue me or something?" By then, I had pushed myself up from the floor. I walked steadily toward her, my movements deliberate. In the next second, under her utterly stunned gaze, I reached into the pocket of her school uniform, plucked the car keys and the bank card from her grasp, and gave a small, casual wave as I walked past her toward the classroom. "Goodbye," I said, a strange sense of finality settling over me. Finally. The thought that followed was my own, sharp and clear. "You fake, innocent little snake. You didn't see that coming, did you?" The puppet's strings had been cut. This broke loser role was finished. Whoever wanted to be her provider could have the part. Later that afternoon, after school had ended, I climbed into the back of the car my family sent to pick me up. Arthur, our driver for years, was in the front seat, but he didn't start the engine right away. I was about to ask what he was waiting for when I saw a slim figure pass by the car. Arthur immediately rolled down his window. "Miss Clara," he called out cheerfully, "aren't you getting in?" Clara's disdainful gaze found me through the thick, tinted glass. It was clear she believed my actions that morning were nothing more than a childish tantrum, and that now, as always, I was coming crawling back, ready to beg for her forgiveness like a pathetic dog. "Arthur," I said, my voice sharp with an irritation that surprised him. "Are you my driver or Clara's?" His friendly smile froze on his face. "Young master, what are you saying? Of course I serve you." "There is no Miss Clara in my family," I stated, my tone leaving no room for argument. "If you call her that again, I'll ask my father to hire someone with a better memory." He stammered, his face paling. Yes, I understand, young master." Arthur quickly started the car, though I saw him steal one last, puzzled glance at Clara, who was now unlocking an old, rickety bicycle by the school gates. In the story I now remembered, everyone around me, except for my parents, seemed to think Clara was some kind of misunderstood saint. Even when she showed no gratitude and acted with an air of superiority, they saw it as pride and strength of character. I was just the arrogant rich boy trying to force her into submission with my wealth. I watched her through the window as we pulled away. In that other timeline, she would have stormed off in the morning, proclaiming with shame and anger that she didn't want my charity. But later, after an internal monologue filled with moral struggle and self-pity, she would have used the bank card to pay for her mother's hospital bills, all while maintaining the facade of a wronged victim who had been coerced by me, but now she had nothing. With a 20-kilometer journey ahead of her and a mountain of medical bills waiting, I wondered, with a cold sense of detachment, what she was going to do. As the college entrance exams drew closer, the summer sun grew increasingly brutal. By the time I was home, sitting in air-conditioned comfort while eating chilled watermelon and working on my practice exams, Clara would have just been arriving at the hospital, drenched in sweat and exhausted from her long bike ride. After I finished my assignments, I decided to call my father. "Hey, Dad, where are you?" I asked. I need to talk to you about something important. There were things I needed to do, warnings I had to give to prevent the financial ruin I had seen in my vision. What's wrong? He answered, his voice a bit muffled. Your Uncle Chen is sick. We're at the hospital visiting him now. Which hospital? I asked immediately. I'll come find you. After getting the address, I had Arthur drive me there. As I walked through the main payment hall of the hospital, I heard a familiar, desperate voice. Dr. Evans, I'm begging you, Clara pleaded. Please, just go ahead with the surgery for my mom. I promise I'll find a way to pay for it later. The doctor, a kind-looking man with weary eyes, sighed. There are rules, Clara, you know that. If the fees haven't been paid, there's simply nothing I can do. You're already behind on the last round of bills. I've pulled what strings I can for you, but if you can't come up with the money in the next few days, we'll have no choice but to discharge your mother. Clara was gently but firmly brushed aside by the busy doctor. She slumped against the wall, then slowly slid to the ground, crouching in a small, defeated ball of despair. This was a completely different person from the proud, defiant girl I had seen at school that morning. So she could bow her head after all. What, then, made her act so high and mighty around me? Was it simply the blind, self-sacrificing love she was owed by the supporting male character in her story? I walked past her, heading for the elevators. Just as I drew level with her, the girl, still with her head down, choked out a single phrase through her tears. Leo, you win. I stopped, blinking in confusion. Wait, what? I turned back and asked, What are you talking about? Clara slowly stood up. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying, yet her expression was still as stubborn as ever. She stared at me, a bitter smile twisting her lips. Isn't this what you wanted all along? To see me completely broken, with no way out, finally forced to come begging for your charity? I stared at her in silence for a long moment, genuinely baffled by her logic. Are you mentally ill? I finally muttered. She scoffed, assuming my question was just a petty jab. With extreme reluctance, as if it pained her physically, she extended her hand toward me. Give it to me? I frowned. Give you what? The card, obviously, she replied, her voice dripping with condescension. You came all the way here just to give me your bank card, didn't you? She paused, her tone growing even more scornful. Don't even try to tell me it's a coincidence you showed up here. Leo, I know exactly what kind of person you are. I was stunned. What kind of author had written this story? How could the supposed heroine have such a warped and twisted worldview? You have got to be kidding me, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. I felt a headache coming on. You fake innocent, do me a favor and get a grip. I moved her aside, feeling that if I looked at her for one more second, I might actually lose my temper. Grinding my teeth, I said, yes, my family has money, but my parents donate millions to charity every year, and I have never seen a single person we've helped act like such an entitled brat. I've never seen someone twist a situation around like this. Yes, you've had a hard life, but what the hell does that have to do with me? When I was foolishly chasing after you, I gave you everything I could, and you treated me like dirt. Do I owe you something? And now you have the nerve to stand here and demand money from me like it's your birthright? Clara just looked at me coldly, her expression unchanging. My entire rant seemed to have gone in one ear and out the other. Sure enough. She let out a sarcastic snort. Oh, so now having money gives you the right to humiliate people however you want. Leo, you've never understood me. You don't even understand how disgusting you really are. I sighed, defeated. Fine. If you hate me that much, then you can hate my money while you're at it. But just as I finished speaking, the elevator behind me dinged open. A second later, a furious voice shouted from behind me. Leo, what kind of man bullies a woman like this? Before I could even react, someone shoved me hard from behind. I stumbled and hit the floor, and my attacker immediately lunged, pinning me down and swinging a fist at my face. A surge of rage exploded through me. I twisted and countered with a hard kick to his stomach, sending him stumbling back. I scrambled to my feet, breathing heavily, my eyes scanning my attacker. Standing protectively in front of Clara was a short, scrawny guy with tanned skin and a flat nose. He glared at me, his face twisted with righteous anger. I didn't even need to think. It was obviously him, Clara's childhood friend, the male lead of the original story, Mark. "Leo, you've gone too far," he snapped. I hadn't even opened my mouth when he pointed a finger in my face like some kind of heroic idiot. "Clara has dignity. She would never sell herself for your dirty money. Trying to buy someone's heart is pathetic and low." I just stared at him, my expression completely blank. Maybe my gaze was too intense, because Clara furrowed her brow and said coldly, "What kind of look is that? Did Mark say anything wrong?" Emboldened by her support, Mark continued his tirade. "Even though Clara refuses your money for her mother's sake, I'm willing to help convince her to take it. But Leo, don't think that will win you Clara's heart." I let out a flat, emotionless, "Oh," and said, "I swear I want to smack your disgusting face. Seriously, what kind of dialogue is this? Is there a single normal person in this entire story?" Clara wrinkled her nose in disgust. "What? Do you expect me to be grateful to you or something?" I was done. Without another word, I pulled out my phone, dialed 911, and said, "You can save the rest of your nonsense for the police." Surely not even the police would be brainwashed by this bizarre novel logic. Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. "You're calling the police? No way. I'm warning you, Leo. If you go through with this, Clara will hate you for the rest of her life." And right after he said that, I hit the call button without a single shred of hesitation, as if I needed to wait. What if she suddenly started liking me again? That was the last thing I wanted. During the 20 minutes we waited for the police to arrive, Mark tried every angle to get me to back down. "Leo," he said, trying to sound reasonable, "I know this is all because you're bitter that Clara rejected your charity. How about this? Give the money to me. I'll talk to her for you. Just cancel the police call and we'll call it even. I only hit you because I wanted to protect her. Why can't you reflect on your own mistakes instead of dragging us down with you?" I just stood there, arms folded, leaning against the wall and keeping a healthy distance from both of them. Hearing his proposal, I actually laughed. "Wow, call it even? You want to assault me, take my money, and have me beg you to accept my help? What do you think I am, a masochist? You don't get to have the moral high ground and the practical benefits. The two of you can sit tight and wait for the police." Makoto frowned. "Why are you so heartless? If you're going to help all the way. Don't turn something good into something ugly. If the police get involved, Clara's reputation will be ruined. Can you live with that? Is this your idea of love? Destroying someone if you can't have them?" I smirked. "You did this to yourselves. You blocked my way. You got physical first. My only mistake today was not checking my horoscope, so I could have avoided meeting you two clowns entirely." Their faces grew darker with every word. When the police finally arrived, both of them still looked like they couldn't believe it was happening. The police pulled the CCTV footage from the hospital lobby. Under my firm insistence, no compromise was reached. They were held responsible for my minor medical expenses and had to report to the station for a formal warning. Before being led away, Clara threw me one last venomous glare, as if to say, "I will never love you in this lifetime." I just shrugged, as if I ever wanted her to. After the police left, I went upstairs to visit Mr. Chen. His daughter Chloe was there too. When she saw me, she let out a cold snort. While our fathers were chatting, I pulled Chloe out into the hallway. "We can stop sponsoring Clara. was the first thing I said. Chloe's expression, previously full of disdain for me and my obsession, changed in an instant. She stared at me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "What happened? Did you two finally break up?" I looked at her with a blank face. She didn't know we were never even together. Ever since Clara's mother had her accident, I had secretly arranged for Chloe to sponsor Clara in the name of the Chen family. We provided a living allowance of 5,000 yuan a month, and I had even arranged a full scholarship through the school. At first, Clara would politely write thank you letters to Chloe. Of course, I was the one who read those letters, and I was the one who replied. Perhaps I had been too enthusiastic, pouring too much emotion into my replies, because gradually our letters had become flirtatious. Clara, however, had no idea, believing the person she was corresponding with was a boy from the Chen family. Before my awakening, I had been so obsessed with her, partly because I believed she was the gentle, serene person from those letters, not the hysterical girl from school. Chloe noticed my gloomy expression and pouted. "Fine, as long as you've thought it through. But I still have to remind you, Clara is not a good person. Once the Chen family stops sponsoring her, she'll have no income. Don't be dumb enough to spend your own money on her directly." As she spoke, she opened her phone and forwarded me a few articles with titles like How to Spot a Gold Digger and Why Marrying into the Right Family Matters. "Got it," I said, filled with a deep regret. There had been rational people around me all along. Why hadn't I ever listened? On the car ride home with my dad, I sat in silence. He was looking at his phone and asked without looking up, "What's wrong? In a bad mood?" "Not exactly," I sighed. "I was just wondering, what if our family suddenly went bankrupt one day?" My dad laughed. "That's impossible. Don't tell me you think your allowance isn't enough." As he spoke, he waved his hand and transferred 50,000 yuan to my account. I accepted the money but said seriously, "That's not it. I had a bad dream last night. Just promise me, Dad, you and Mom must never use illegal means in business. And don't store any important files on the company computers, okay?" My dad thought for a moment, then turned to look at me, his expression serious. "Okay, Leo, I promise." Only then did I smile. "What are you reading?" I asked. "A post from Dr. Evans," he said, holding up his phone. "A cancer patient is in need of donations. I was thinking of sending some money." The moment he finished speaking, my blood ran cold. I remembered. The person in need of donations was Clara's mother. In the original timeline, Dr. Evans helped raise funds, and my parents donated 200,000 yuan. But due to a delay with the fundraising platform, the money didn't arrive for nearly 3 months. Clara's mother passed away before she could have the surgery. Crushed by grief, Clara directed all her hatred toward our family and Dr. Evans, swearing she would make us pay. The result was our family's bankruptcy, and Dr. Evans losing the use of both his hands. Without thinking, I pressed down on my dad's hand. "Dad, we can't donate this money." "Why not?" he asked, puzzled. A mere 200,000 was nothing to him. I didn't tell him the truth. I simply said, "That type of cancer isn't curable at this stage. Rather than putting her through more painful treatments, it's better to leave that money for the living." My dad didn't question me. He just nodded and turned off his phone. "You've got a point," he said. Ever since the incident at the hospital, Clara and I had entered a cold war. The students at school, used to our daily drama, quickly noticed something was off. During the morning exercises, Clara's group of friends came up to her. Our classes were right next to each other, so their conversation carried easily. "Clara, did you have a fight with Leo?" one of them asked, loud enough for me to hear. Clara's chilly gaze landed on me for a moment before she let out a cold snort. Her friends exchanged knowing smiles. "What fight?" one said. Someone like Leo is just a simp. He wouldn't dare argue with our Clara. Another chimed in. Exactly, it's just that Clara doesn't want to deal with him. They all laughed, convinced nothing had really changed. The comments seemed to inflate Clara's ego. She smirked silently, casting a vague, unreadable glance in my direction. Seeing her mood improve, her friends cautiously tested the waters. Clara, it's Maria's birthday today. Want to go to karaoke tonight? Without thinking, Clara said, Sure. Maria lit up. Yay, I'll ask my mom for some money. Let's party all night. Clara waved her finger. It's your birthday. We can't let you pay. Maria bit her lip. But our families are strict. We can't really afford it. Clara let out a soft scoff. I can. The others exchanged triumphant glances while gushing with praise. Ah, Clara, you're the best. You're totally our rock. Leo doesn't deserve you. The comments clearly gave her a huge boost of emotional validation. She felt needed, like the brightest star in her circle. But to me, it sounded insane. In the original story, Clara often spent her own meager allowance to help her friends, loving the role of the kind, supportive girl. The problem was, she was poor. She survived solely on the 5,000 yuan allowance I secretly provided. Her friends showered her with attention so they could spend her money, and she, loving the feeling, spent lavishly on them. As a result, she never saved a single cent. If she had just saved a portion of that money, she could have easily saved up enough for her mother's surgery. After school, while I was waiting for my driver, I saw Clara and her friends walk toward the ATM next to the school gate. 5 minutes later, they came back out. Their expressions soured. Why is there no money on your card, Clara? Maria asked. Didn't they transfer you this month's funding? Clara's face darkened. That's impossible, she muttered, rummaging through her bag for her phone to dial a number. Blocked. A wave of humiliation washed over her as her friends started chirping. He blocked you? How are you going to treat us tonight? What are you going to live on now? I already reserved a room. Each question was a dagger to her pride. She clutched her phone, her eyes reddening. Then, all of a sudden, she looked up. Across the busy school gate, her cold, piercing gaze locked onto me. My brow twitched. I had a bad feeling. The next second, she was walking toward me. Leo, she called, her voice deliberately softened. That 3,000 yuan I transferred to you last time, can you return it to me? She was referring to the compensation she and Mark had been forced to pay for my medical expenses. Why should I? I frowned. That money was ours, not the charity you threw at me, she said. Why can't I take it back? That was compensation the police ruled you owed me for assaulting someone, I replied flatly. Her face turned beet red. Seeing I wasn't budging, she gritted her teeth. I'll give you the medical fee back next time. Just return this amount to me first. I sneered and turned away. Fuming, she stomped her foot. Leo, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Just because I didn't want your filthy money, you're forcing me like this. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes as if making a great sacrifice, and said, Fine, I won't ask for the money back. I accept your charity. Happy now? Everyone's watching. Give me the money. I was speechless. Clara, do you not understand plain English? Instead of running around celebrating birthdays and pestering me, maybe you should spare a thought for your mom's medical bills. She flinched. Are you threatening me? Just then, Arthur pulled up. I went to get in, but Clara grabbed the car door. My mom's bills are none of your business. Dr. Evans is helping me raise funds. You can't use that to threaten me. Her voice shook with anger. Are you giving me the money or not? I pried her hands off the door, shoved her aside, and slammed it shut. Drive, I told Arthur. As the window rolled up, I looked her in the eyes and said, "Maybe ask Dr. Evans to check your head while you're at it." In the end, Clara still got the money for karaoke. But it came from Mark, who handed her 1,000 yuan with a pained expression. "This is my allowance for next month," he said. Clara, touched, promised to pay him back. This led to a conversation I only learned about later. Mark expressed his desire to go to Peking University with her, but lamented that his grades weren't quite good enough. Clara, without a second thought, told him not to worry about the direct admission slot. "I'll talk to Leo," she had said confidently. "I'll persuade him to give it up. The teachers all think highly of me. You'll definitely get in." Of course, I knew nothing of this. In the original timeline, I really did give up that spot for her. But now, knowing everything, I filled out the application without hesitation and submitted it to the school. The next afternoon, I went to the Chen residence and dug out all the old letters Clara and I had exchanged. In them, she called me Brother Chen, writing about how she'd never met someone so mature, gentle, and caring. It was enough to make your teeth ache. Chloe stood nearby, watching me rip the letters to shreds, giggling. If she ever finds out her warm-hearted big brother is the guy she hates most at school, I wonder how she'd react. As we headed downstairs, we heard Clara's pleading voice from the living room. "Mr. Chen, please don't stop sponsoring me. Once I get into college, you'll be proud of me, right?" At the sound of our footsteps, she looked up and her eyes locked with mine. Chloe, having heard her, rolled her eyes. "You really think our family is that desperate to sponsor someone like you?" To Clara, those words translated to, "What are you but a plaything for the rich?" Her eyes instantly turned red. She pointed at Chloe and shouted, "So money gives you the right to manipulate people's lives? Let Brother Chen come out. He's the only one who understands me. I want to see him." Chloe stepped forward gracefully, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Sweetheart," she said, winking. "I'm the Brother Chen you've been writing to. Anything you'd like to say?" Clara stared, her mind unable to process the reality that her gentle pen pal was actually this stunningly beautiful woman. She shook violently, grabbing the sofa for support. When her disbelieving eyes landed on me, they froze. "Leo, it was you." For a second, I thought she'd finally put it together. But then she grabbed a glass from the coffee table and hurled it at me. I dodged just in time as it shattered against the wall. Security guards rushed in and pinned her to the floor as she screamed, "Let me go! Leo, you teamed up with her to mess with me, didn't you? Just because I didn't like you, you cut off my support and sent some girl to humiliate me. Why don't you just go die?" The room fell silent. Finally, Mr. Chen asked coldly, "How come I didn't know my daughter was sponsoring anyone?" His voice pulled Clara back from her meltdown. Trembling, she said, "It was your daughter. She sent 5,000 yuan to my card every month." Mr. Chen frowned. "I'm Chloe's father. She was spoiled from birth. You think she would pity you enough to give you money?" Chloe finally lost her patience. She kicked Clara's side. Not hard, but enough to make a point. "That money came from Leo, you idiot. What, do you think I'm a lesbian? Sending you money, writing letters to comfort your fragile ego? Leo did all of that for you. And this is how you repay him? You absolute moron." Clara was stunned, staring at me as if she couldn't process the truth. Mr. Chen had the guards escort her out. That evening, when I got home, she was standing under a street lamp outside my house, waiting. I forced myself to walk over. "Why didn't you tell me you were the one writing the letters?" she asked, her voice small. I chuckled without humor. "Would it have made a difference? You rejected money from me at school like it was poison, but you accepted it from a stranger without question. Why?" "Of course there's a difference," she said, as if it were obvious. "When you gave me money at school, in front of everyone, that was just to humiliate me. I'm poor, but I still have dignity. Do you get that? No, I said, rubbing my temples. I don't get it, and I don't want to. From now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. I turned to leave, but she grabbed my sleeve. I tugged it back. Do you know how much this shirt costs? Can you pay for it this time? She let go. After a few seconds, she said awkwardly, I admit I was extreme before, but you and I are still connected. There's something between us, right? What are you trying to say, Clara? I asked, cutting her off. She took a deep breath, as if making a huge sacrifice. I'm saying, Leo, we can start over. I'm willing to give your feelings a chance, but you have to agree to one thing. What is it? I asked, morbidly curious. She smiled, thinking she had me. Give up the Peking University recommendation. Let Mark have it. If you do that, I'll try dating you. I was so angry I could barely breathe. And why the hell would I do that? She mistook my anger for jealousy and giggled, hugging my arm. Don't misunderstand. There's nothing between Mark and me. He just helped me, and I want to repay him. Fine, I said, pulling my arm away. You repay him. What does that have to with me? If you like me, shouldn't you be willing to do things for me? Don't be so selfish, Leo. I shoved her away. Get lost, I snarled. Just get the hell away from me. That wounded her pride. She cursed me, swore I'd regret it, and stormed off. A few days later, the recommendation list was posted on the school bulletin board. Mark was there early with his friends, and there, in bold font, was my name. Leo. Mark's face turned ashen. Just then, Clara passed by. Humiliated, Mark lashed out at her. Clara, why is Leo's name on the list? Didn't you say you'd help me get it? Clara, who had just been unceremoniously dismissed by the principal after the school lost our family's donation, was in no mood for it. What are you talking about? She snapped. If you wanted to get in, you should have worked for it yourself. Only losers use backdoor connections. Mark's eyes widened. You gold-digging bitch! Where was that attitude when I gave you money? The students gathered around as they began to scream at each other. I'm a gold digger? She shrieked. You think someone like me would be into a social climber from the countryside like you? Go look in a mirror. At least my parents are still alive, he shot back. You killed your dad, and now you're dragging your mom down too. You're the one who played Leo like a simp, and now that he's ignoring you, you think crawling back will work? Their venomous words exposed everything. The whispers started around them. So Leo was getting screwed over the whole time. Neither of them are any good. Good thing Leo snapped out of it. Just then, I happened to walk over to check the list. Clara spotted me instantly. She wiped her tears and looked at me with a pitiful expression. Leo, you're here. The moment I heard her voice, I turned to leave. I'm sorry, she called after me. I was wrong before. I only just realized you were the one who truly cared about me. Can we start over? I paused, turned around, and looked her dead in the eye. Apology accepted. Everything else. Take it back. Her eyes lit up with false hope. Come on, Leo, let's stop being so stubborn, okay? I raised my voice so everyone could hear. Then let me repeat what I told you before. Get lost. Get as far away from me as possible. And don't ever try to be part of my life again. After that, things unfolded with a grim, fated certainty. Clara's mother never made it to surgery and passed away. Clara, distracted by grief, bombed her college entrance exams. In her despair, she blamed Dr. Evans for the failed fundraising and attacked him at the hospital, injuring both of his hands so badly he would never practice surgery again. She was tried and convicted, sentenced to 10 years in prison. Without my family pulling strings and paying damages as we would have in the other timeline, she faced the full consequences of her actions. She had no one left. On the day she was being taken to the correctional facility, my father and I happened to be at the courthouse for an unrelated matter. Across the crowd, her eyes locked onto mine. She looked worn and frail, a ghost of the arrogant girl she used to be. It was like watching a star fall from the sky. Then, she opened her mouth and silently mouthed 2 words to me: "Help me." It was then I truly understood. She wasn't some powerful heroine. She was the protagonist of a redemption story, someone who needed to be saved at the beginning to grow later on. But her savior had woken up from his programmed role. I held her gaze for a moment longer, then turned and walked away, leaving her story and my part in it behind for good.